Oh my god, I'm back. We're back. The Wheel of Time is back, and boy is it back. I was gonna film this video yesterday, and for some reason I just didn't feel like it. Comparison is the thief of joy, is what I keep telling myself. Because, as you may or may not know, most of the time, 99% of the time, I'm more of a witchcraft and paganism focused channel. And on top of that, I'm not a very big channel. So with these Wheel of Time videos, it's been hard for me not to compare myself to other larger Wheel of Time channels that are getting all the views. And the Wheel of Time videos do tend to get more views than my witchcraft focused videos, but yeah, part of me was like, oh, what's the point in rushing to make and edit and publish these videos because no one's even watching them, and there's so many other Wheel of Time episode reviews and breakdowns coming out that are more informative or more entertaining and witty or just have better editing and graphics, and I'm just sitting here in my room ranting and raving about the Wheel of Time. But you know what? It's fine. I'm fine. I love Wheel of Time, and watching these first 3 videos and now sitting down to talk to you and go over all of my notes and stuff. Forewarning, it's basically just going to be me fangirling all over the place, which I think is really good and says something about the quality and the caliber of episodes that we're getting already this season. I did sit down and watch the fan preview event where we got to see the first episode before it officially dropped a week before, and they also did show a lot of behind the scenes things. And so I guess maybe between that and then editing and publishing all of my rewatch videos and then sitting down to binge watch the first 3 episodes when they dropped, I kind of felt like I needed to just come up for air for a minute before I sat down to film these. And then also I was like, do I really want to sit down and have to do makeup and all of that junk? So I wasn't even gonna do all of this today. But ironically enough, one of the things I'm really excited to get into is dream walking with Egwene in these episodes, because I like to think that I'm something of a dream walker myself, and Robert Jordan was really onto something. I'm gonna make a whole video about Tel'aran'rhiod and the World of Dreams soon. In my own dream wanderings last night, I dreamt that I was putting on bright green eye makeup, so I woke up today kind of refreshed and ready to throw on a look and sit down and film these. So I guess without any further ado, let's get into season 3 of the Wheel of Time. Like I said, these are gonna be more of just a recap with some occasional screenshots inserted. I am really excited to talk about these episodes because if you've watched my Shadow Rising breakdown and predictions video, there's a lot that I got right, and I'm really excited, so I'm gonna humble brag about that while I fangirl all over the place, so get ready. Season 3, episode 1 opens with the off-screen scene that we had in either Dragon Reborn or Shadow Rising, where the Black Aja steal a bunch of powerful Angreal and ter'angreal from the tower and escape. And in the books, I think it was a lot more of a secret escape in the night type of deal, but in this, they really went out with a bang, literally. No holds barred, holding nothing back. I love that Liandrin tried to call out Swan for conspiring with Moiraine to help Rand escape from Cairhien, but she just totally glossed that over and was like, yeah, whatever, that might be true, but that's neither here nor there, because you a big fat dark friend liar. And all I can say is that it's a good thing that our governing body tearing itself apart from within is just part of my escapist fantasy, right? Right? I love that we got the glimpse when they're entering the 13th depository of the twisted red door frame to Angriel, and if you look really closely, you see the snakes and the foxes on top, so they are feeding us book fans very well with the Easter eggs in these initial episodes, and between that and the boys literally playing snakes and foxes in this episode, we better be getting Matt going through that doorway and meeting Aelfin and Ealfin at some point this season. That's all I can say. Or there will be rioting in the streets, and there will be book fans abandoning the show in droves. We also sadly see that Alana does lose one of her warders here in the fight against the Black Aja instead of in the books where it happens at the Two Rivers with battles between White Cloaks and Trollocs, and kind of also happens off screen by the time Perrin and co show up to the Two Rivers. She's already there and has already lost her warder in the Two Rivers before they get there. And an interesting thing that I wanted to come back and touch on, because I was left really confused by this plotline last season, was were Moiraine and Swan conspiring together to help Rand, and Swan was just projecting this front to everyone else of like, oh, I'm Amyrlin Seat and Tower Law says we have to do blah blah blah, so I have to keep up appearances and appear like I'm following rules and procedures in front of everyone else, but when it's just me and Moiraine, we know what we know, and we know that like secretly we're working together to help Rand. But no, confirmed that what I'm kind of calling the Swan character assassination of season 2 was in fact legitimate, and we see some scenes with Swan here talking with the girls that she did in fact kind of turn her back on Moiraine last season and try to wrest control of the reins on Rand away from her, and thought that it was right at the time to do what she was doing, and thought that she was doing what was for the greater good, and like she said a lot last season about trying to take this burden off of Moraine's shoulders, and that it was her turn. But it does seem that now she realizes that that was the wrong move and is kind of regretting her choices because it just, did not go at all according to plan. She lost control of Rand and lost her relationship with Moiraine, it seems. There's this huge rift between them now, which is really sad to see, because I think if you read New Spring, it does touch a lot on their backstory, and that yes, they were close as novices, they were pillow friends, and a lot of the rift between them now as adults is just a front to keep up appearances, because they don't want anyone to know that they are the only two who know about the prophecy of the dragon being reborn, so they can't seem to have any connection together, and they don't want anyone to remember how close they were in their youth, so they're really seeming to keep their distance. But a lot of that is also just because one of them had to leave the tower, so they couldn't be together anymore. So I'm glad they did at least take some time to come back and touch on that and clear that up a little bit, because yeah, I was left very confused by Swan's actions in season 2. I realized if I want to sit down and talk about 3 episodes back to back, I need to have some coffee in me first. You see that Gwen is still understandably very traumatized by her ordeal as a Damane at the hands of Rena and the Seanchan. She says she's still having nightmares about it every night. It's interfering with her relationship and ability to be intimate with Rand as a result. I also thought it was interesting that her outfit here is still really resembling like a leash and a collar, which I don't like for her, but I think it just kind of symbolizes where she's still at mentally. She's still stuck there in that room with Rena in a lot of ways, especially as we see from her dreams later on. Although, as we'll see later, that may or may not actually be coming from her. I love that we do get to see a little bit of Egwene going through her accepted test here, and that she's just kind of over White Tower politics and standing on tradition, and we'll see her hopefully carry that forward as the series progresses in a lot of ways, because the White Tower is this it's a fossil, basically. It's this fossilized institution where a lot of like rules and procedures and traditions are just kind of set in stone, as it were, and they're just gonna always do these things this way because they've always been done this way. Yeah, they just become like very calcified almost as a result, and that's why they're unable to adapt and improvise and deal with a lot of these sudden rapid fire changes that are happening and respond to them in meaningful ways. And Egwene and the other girls are going to come along and like break through a lot of those walls. I love that we saw her go through the arches just kind of as like a perfunctory thing. Like, it's not even because she wants the accepted ring anymore. Like, we saw Gwen last season was like, oh my god, I gotta advance, I gotta get that ring. How come Nynaeve got to get that ring? It's not fair, I want it. And now she's just like, I don't really care about being accepted per se. I'm just gonna do this because this is what I need to do to get the freedom that I need to go do what I want to do. She's not all about doing what the Tower wants or what the Tower thinks is best anymore. All I can say for that accepted test scene is like, holy shit, the acting we got from Yosha as Mad Rand was amazing. Like, goosebumps, chills. There was no brother sensitive to be seen in that moment. I hated hearing Nynaeve say that he had killed Mat and Perrin, and I thought it was a really nice juxtaposition seeing that scene of him standing in the river near the two rivers, and it's like running red with blood, and then right after that we get the scene with Rand talking with Moiraine, and she's trying to emphasize to him like, you're not a kid anymore, and this thing that's kind of going on between her and Lanfear of all people, where they are still working together to try to control Rand, you know, each for their own ends and objectives, of course, but like Moraine's trying to drive it home to him that he can't go back to the two rivers anymore. It's not going to end well for anyone involved. It's not going to end well for him, especially as we see from that glimpse of possible futures from Egwene's test. I think that was also, yeah, kind of hinting at us watchers that is what could happen if he does choose to ignore everyone's advice and just go home. No, man, you're the dragon reborn now, and people are gonna be looking for you. You can't just go hide anymore. Like I said, very interesting to see, speak of the devil and she shall appear, talking about Lanfear and Selene, and then she shows up in Tar Valon, conspiring with Moiraine to try to steer Rand where they want him to go. And where do they want him to go? Why, Tyr, of course, because as we saw in The Dragon Reborn and The Shadow Rising, that is canonically where he's supposed to go next, according to the book. The Shadow Rising starts off with them already in the Stone of Tyr. And especially when I was doing my season 1 rewatch, where we had the episode The Flame of Tar Valon that dove a little bit into Swan's backstory, we've been getting teased and hinted at since season 1 that yes, the Stone of Tyr does exist. We were shown it in the background. So for us book readers, like, everyone was kind of had their knickers in a twist, like, oh my god, you're not going to the Stone of Tyr? What? Even as a longtime book reader and book fan, I have been willing to get on board with changes and insertions into the plot that show writers and Rafe are making, as long as I can see that it's laying building blocks for future storylines and adjusting things to make them make more sense to new watchers who are not familiar with the books, we need to find ways to establish certain things early on so that when we do get to those plot points later, it pays off and people know what's happening and know like why people are getting to where they're at now, you know? If that makes sense. So we do see here that Lanfear and Moiraine both want Rand to go to Tyr to take Callandor, the sword and the stone, which is definitely a little nod to Excalibur and all of the Arthurian legend that is prevalent within the Wheel of Time. So Lanfear and Moraine's objective right now is to try to make Rand do what he did at the end of season 1 and ditch his friends and leave everybody behind because they see it as a distraction. They want to separate Rand and isolate him from the others so he's more malleable and easier to control. So they want him to go keep fulfilling prophecies. He's already fulfilled the prophecy at Tolmon Head, and now they want Rand to go straight to the Stone of Tyr and claim Callandor. There's another scene that I loved to see where Loial is helping Rand study the Carathon cycle, the Book of Prophecies concerning the dragon, and they're talking specifically about the prophecies concerning Callandor. So I think we are definitely building up to Tyr in season 4 at this point, and them just switching them around as I and many others had predicted. Because it does make more sense, logically, for Rand to go to the Aiel Waste first, claim this warrior culture of people and recruit them on his side as this really capable army, and then be able to go take the stone, which is an impenetrable fortress that has literally never been conquered since the breaking. You're gonna need an army to do that, so it makes sense. Speaking of prophecies and the Carakarn and the Aiel, I love seeing already the relationship dynamic between Aviendha and Rand is very strained and kind of combative. She's showing this open disdain for him as an uneducated wetlander, and I love the line from him where he's like, if you roll your eyes at me one more time. But why do I feel like he also thinks it's kind of hot though? I'm rereading the Fires of Heaven right now, and yeah, the sexual tension between them is palpable to say the least. Speaking of palpable sexual tension, I was very shocked, shooketh, and maybe a little pearl clutching moment when I saw them introduce the relationship, or should I say deepening of the relationship between Aviendha and Elaine. I was not expecting them to take things in that direction and have them actually be a couple, but I'm kind of here for it because the relationship and the close bond and sisterhood that Elaine and Aviendha develop in the novels is one of my favorite relationships in the books because it's so close and they really do love each other. I think in many ways, not only do they just spend a hell of a lot more time together than either of them ever do in Rand's company throughout the series, I would say that in a lot of ways they have a much stronger and deeper relationship together than either of them ever do with Rand in the series. So it makes perfect sense for them to have this strong relationship together, and then they both kind of think Rand's cute. And in the novels it's much more that they're just drawn to him because ta'veren and dragon, and do I actually have feels for this person or is it fate? I think it will go a long way toward enriching and deepening the relationship between all three of them if Elaine and Aviendha are already close. In the show right now, Egwene and Rand are still very close, but at the beginning of The Shadow Rising, she already sees him more like a brother at this point. So when she finds out that Elaine is catching feels for him, she's all about it and is totally willing to be the wingman. Basically, kind of in a further juxtaposition of Rand Land and the Wheel of Time being more matriarchal focused than patriarchal as societies as a whole. They really don't even give Rand much say in the matter. Egwene just literally pushes Elaine at him and just kind of plays matchmaker and is like, here you go, you should spend time together, and Rand, you're with Elaine now. Okay, bye. And even Aviendha is like, no, you belong to Elaine. Even though you're not together, you haven't even said if you're dating or how you feel about each other. We as women, like, women support women. We know Elaine likes you, therefore you belong to her now. I love so far like the time that we're getting to spend with Elaine as a character, because she is a very prominent character. It's like she's right up there with the boys and Nynaeve and Egwene. So I love that we're already seeing those little hints at her personality traits from the novels, like she loves brewing hooch in the dorms and being in her cups. Along with that, happy to report that the mat is still matting 100%. Love Donal in the row, the sense of humor that we're seeing from Matt, the sarcasm, but also how the sarcasm is just kind of a front for his deep-seated insecurities. I mean, he's always kind of puffing himself up in front of his friends and like being a jokester and acting really cocky, but inside he's like really insecure. I love that he out and out calls Rand a sheep fucker, says he has his dragon head up his dragon ass, and at the end says out loud what we've all been thinking this whole time, that the White Tower looks like a dong. So thank you, Matt, for being you and stating what we've all been thinking. I'm gonna make this the fucking thumbnail of the video because, like, you don't know the joy it gives me as a longtime book reader and fan to see the Rand fighting Ishamael in the sky picture that we got as an Easter egg this episode. That made my Wheel of Time fan heart so happy, especially when we saw that they wildly deviated from the plot of the novels for the battle at Tomon Head, and it wasn't the same as in the books. He didn't fight Ishamael one-on-one, it was as a group, and it wasn't bannered across the sky or kind of like projected in the clouds for everyone to see, but it is a thing in the novels that something happens in one corner of the globe, especially concerning the actions of the Dragon Reborn, and it's like this massive game of telephone where rumors spread. One person says it happened one way, another person saw something completely different, and by the time the stories and the rumors make their way all the way to Tar Valon, we have, you know, Rand literally fighting Ishi in the sky one-on-one with the dragon banner behind them. I was kind of wondering if they were gonna make a nod to the original plot in that way by having it be just an account of what happened that wasn't at all true to reality, because that happens to Rand over and over in the books, where there's just all these wild rumors and stories circulating around about the Dragon Reborn, and he did this and he did that, and oh my god, when in reality it was like nothing like that. Love to see it. Oh my gosh, I had to come back because I forgot to say, like, the whole reason why I really liked that Easter egg of the picture of Rand fighting Ishamael in the sky is because that's like one of the first drawings I ever did. Every time I read Wheel of Time, I really want to go draw the characters and draw all of the costumes that are described in the books. One of the very first drawings that I did over a decade ago at this point, if not more, in my big sketchbook was of the scene of Rand fighting Ishamael in the sky. I still have it. It was like a chalk pastel drawing that I did. So very, very similar to the style of art used in the show, where it was like charcoals and pastels used for color. So that just made me really happy to see that inserted, not just because they were giving us that Easter egg from how things happened in the novels, but just because, like, I drew that scene myself, and I'll insert a little picture of it here so you guys can see my depiction of Rand fighting Ishi in the sky over Falme. It just really made me happy to see that in particular. I was like, oh my god, it's the drawing! I did that drawing! And now they're showing it! I was doing a lot of speculating after season 2 and in my Shadow Rising breakdown of who was or wasn't going to return to Tar Valon, and like, were the girls going to even return to the tower at all, or were they just going to immediately like branch off to their different storylines, but we do see that everyone returned. Tar Valon and Egwene at least returned to do her accepted test, but then she's like Audi 5000. Surprisingly, Nynaeve agrees to return to the tower for more training because she knows that she needs it in order to get over her block. And I love that we are addressing this and having it as a main plot point for her, just like it was in the novels, where she's probably the strongest female channeler that's not a Forsaken on the planet right now, but she has no control over it. Also loved that during Egwene's accepted test we got an Alviarin name drop, and I was like, what? Say that again? Because we know she's gonna be a big player in the Tower Coup scene and going forward in that whole plot line with Elida, but we have seen hide nor hair of her as a character up until now, so just file that little name away for later. And in the Red Quarters later, we also get Galena, and if you've been following Wheel of Time accounts, I love following the Instagram account of Sharon Gillam, who's the costume designer for Wheel of Time, and she just give her all the awards, please, because caliber of costume design, it just keeps going up and up from season 1 till now. She had posted something on her Instagram showing a costume of a Red sister and said that her name was Galena, which if you are a book reader, if you know, you know. Loved the scene of Rand and Loial studying prophecy, and they're talking about the people of the dragon and who could that be. We know that that is another name for the Aiel, is people of the dragon, but they don't necessarily like to be called that, and we'll see why later on. It's kind of a misnomer. He realizes he does need an army to conquer. The prophecies say that, you know, when the dragon comes, the stone will finally fall, and it's important to note that whoever takes the stone and has control of the Stone of Tyr is the de facto ruler of Tyr. So I think Rand's also gonna file that away for later. I also wanted to go back and point out that especially after rewatching season 1 and the cold open that we got at the finale between Lews Therin Telamon and Latra, the Amyrlin back in the Age of Legends, and then now in this scene between Rand and Moiraine where he's like, you can't tell me what to do anymore. His haircut along with his outfit in that scene was really, to me, mirroring the look and the outfit of Lews Therin in that scene where he's arguing about his plan to go steal the Dark One's prison. I wonder if that was deliberate, because like this is a scene where Rand is now kind of stepping into his own as the dragon and saying like, no, I do what I want now and you can't control me, just like Lews in that scene with that female Aes Sedai saying, you can't tell me what to do. Loving seeing Egwene being a boss babe already and like standing up to Siuan Sanche herself. Like I said, getting that accepted ring and saying peace. Already definitely coming into her own as a character and willing to stand up to the Amyrlin herself, which, yeah, if you know, you know. For her character growth, it says a lot about where she's going. We see power wrought weapons being mentioned. I don't know if that was touched on before, that Rand's Heron marked blade was a power wrought weapon, but we see here that Lan's Malkieri blade is power wrought, so another file that info away for later. We see a little scene here between Rand and Egwene where she's dressing his wound, which is still bothering him, that he got from the dagger at Falme. It's another little nod to Arthurian legend and the Fisher King, where the king and the vitality of the king is tied to the vitality of the land. I think plays a much larger role in the novels with things like the seasons and the weather being all out of whack. Haha, no idea what that's like. Thanks, global warming. But we're not getting that so much in the show, which is another thing that I did predict and was correct about in my Shadow Rising breakdown. I said that I didn't think we were gonna get bubbles of evil as just random bubbles of evil and signs of the Dark One one's corruption on the world. I thought that we were gonna get the bubble of evil scene, just like it happened in the show, where it was gonna be a Forsaken behind it. But I was not expecting the Forsaken behind it to be Lanfear, so I was like, what the heck? But it made a lot more sense than, like, why Moiraine was just sitting in her rooms unbothered while the whole thing was going down. I love that in addition to that, we finally saw the concept of Greyman being introduced, because that plays a really pivotal role in Matt's storyline going forward, especially. So I'm glad that we got that introduced here. Up until now, Moiraine was kind of okay with Lan having a thing with Nynaeve, to the point that in Feldara she was encouraging it. But now we see it's definitely putting a strain on their relationship, and that Lan's priorities are shifting away from Moiraine, even though he's her warder and is supposed to be protecting her first and foremost. The minute Nynaeve started calling that man's name, he was just pew, gone in 60 seconds. Moiraine who? He's gonna go protect his bae. And the fucking look Moiraine gave him of like, we're gonna have words about this later. Loved it. Just kudos to everyone this season, because just the caliber of acting in the first 3 episodes, like everyone is really taking it up a notch. But all I can say for Lanfear being the one behind the attack is, of course she's gonna go for Egwene extra hard. And maybe even Nynaeve too. Like, I feel like Lanfear at this point does not want any other women in any close proximity to Rand in any way, shape, or form. It's giving crazy ex-girlfriend. It's just one of the reasons why she's my favorite character. I'm also gonna do a whole video about Lanfear here at some point. Maybe during, maybe right after this season is over, but either way it's gonna happen because she's probably my #1 favorite character. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but back to this scene between Rand and Egwene before they're like so rudely interrupted. We see that their relationship is strained. Both of them have gone through so much and already changed so much from where they were in season 1. And I think that's, looking back, maybe another reason why they chose to have Egwene be the one that had her braid cut off by Rhenna in season 2, because in the novels, I believe it's Nynaeve during her Aes Sedai test, when she goes back through the arches again to be made full Aes Sedai. It's during one of her testings she ends up getting her braid cut off. And it's kind of like symbolic, like, oh, she's lost her Two Rivers braid. She's definitely no longer the wisdom anymore, you know? Like, she has to transition from one role into the other. But here I think they shifted that to Egwene to symbolize that shift. She was already the one who was kind of the most willing to leave the Two Rivers behind and not look back and just be fully about her new life at the tower and being Aes Sedai and everything. Leave behind that previous identity. And I think that just symbolizes even more here that she has fully left that identity of the girl from the Two Rivers behind, and there's no going back for her. Just like there's no going back for Rand. And it also made me wonder, like, when she was talking with him about what happened in her testing, and he's trying to like kind of pry her for info, like, was I there? Did I hurt you? And she's like, no, I hurt you. It makes me wonder, is she worried at all about his mental state yet? In The Shadow Rising, his friends, and Matt in particular, are really wary about Rand and like spending time around him in close proximity to him, because all of them, including Rand, are acutely aware that the more he channels, the more the madness is going to affect him. So I'm just kind of wondering if that scene was to kind of establish a little bit of that aspect of things, them starting to be really concerned about where his mental state is at, or if it was just to kind of already establish Egwene's undying loyalty to him, where she's like, I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. In the archways, she had to put him down like a rabid dog, but I wonder if it's like the flicker with Matt, where he saw himself killing Rand, and that just made him even more adamant adamant that that was never going to happen. I'm wondering if it's going to make a Gwen even more adamant that like she is going to protect Rand no matter what, even if he goes mad. And I thought it was interesting when Lanfear revealed that, you know, she was the one behind the attack, but then goes on to say that the Gray Man was not her doing, and specifically that only one Forsaken can create them, which I don't think was true in the novel. I was wondering like who that Forsaken was, but they alluded that the Gray Man had blackened fingers, and we've seen that that's also true of Moghedien. Later we do get confirmed that it is indeed Moghedien who creates the Gray Men, because we have this really creepy scene at the end of the episode where Moghedien has Jaishim Caridin held captive, who is a character from The Shadow Rising, who was a White Cloak dark friend operating in Tanchico. The White Cloaks were there kind of trying to restore order / gain control of things in Tanchico. I was like, what the fuck did she do to him? Was it some form of really intense compulsion? But we do get a reveal from Varen later on in episode 3 that this procedure, whatever she did to him, is how dark friends are made. You basically literally give up your soul. Like, you not only give up your soul to the shadow, but then somehow by breaking your oath, you become a Gray Man. Not sure. That's something they kind of invented for the show, but man, this scene really did nail the horror aspects that as I have been saying this whole time in all of my reviews and videos and whatnot. The Wheel of Time does have horror elements to it. Sometimes you have to read between the lines to find them, or they're only revealed in like flashbacks or character point of views when they're like reflecting on like things that they had happened to them. But this scene is like straight out of the horror aspects from the novels, so love to see it. A couple little things that I'm left wondering at the end of episode 1, where we saw Varen and Adelius kind of get mind flayed by whatever that brown sister Naomi did when she was stealing stuff from the depository. Like, I thought Adelius was dead, because I think she does get killed by dark friends in the series, like way later on. But here she just kind of has a traumatic brain injury and she's not dead. So I'm wondering, like, we're getting all these hints in these first 3 episodes that the Yellow Sisters and the Yellow Aja doesn't really have a way to heal brain injuries or maladies of the mind. And I'm wondering if that's laying the groundwork now for Nynaeve, as she does in the series, to be the one that discovers how to heal these types of afflictions, and if she will be able to heal Adelius later on, just as she says she's going to try to fix Mat and help Mat. I'm also not sure if Lan's Malkyrie power wrought sword is going to be able to kill Lanfear like they said. It might work on other Forsaken because Rand's worked on Ishamael, but Lanfear has a little something extra special going on with her because Moiraine did use Rand's sword on Lanfear in season 2 and it didn't do anything. To kind of close out this first episode review, all I can say going into season 3 is suck it, Rings of Power. I mean, in terms of costumes, acting, writing and storytelling, vast epic landscapes with characters walking, Lord of the Rings style epic journey scenery. This show has everything. And I'm gonna say it again and again. If you are here for Dune Prophecy and Rings of Power, you need to give Wheel of Time a chance, because it is right up there, if not surpassing those other 2 shows in terms of caliber of fantasy writing, scope and scale of epic grandeur. So far this season, it's nailing it, and I really hope that they're able to keep up the momentum that they're giving us with these first 3 episodes, because it has just been go, 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 and they are just dropping so many things on us. The stars are aligned, the characters are now aligned where they're supposed to be, and they are just feeding me as a book fan with all the things I've been really wanting to see on screen. I'm just so stoked for it, you guys. Stay tuned for my season 3 episode 2 breakdown following shortly.